Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Chess4Life Spotlight. And I'm really excited today with our guest, Siva Sankrithi, if I hope I said that correctly, who's been a longtime connection with an amazing backstory that not everybody knows. From 10 years as the high school math teacher at the prestigious school Lakeside in Seattle, to retiring from that career early before most people are even halfway into their careers, to a new career that I'm sure he'll be excited to share about in terms of some home education. An advisor on projects including preschool and early learning chess and many others in the education space, to a talented musician, to you name it. Siva has done so much. Very excited to have you today and to jump into some of these topics. So welcome to the spotlight, Siva.
Thank you so much, Elliott. I'm looking forward to it.
And I hope I said that correctly. And, it's been a real joy connecting with you over the years, from high school chess through what you've done with nationals chess and all these different things. But before we get into all the chess aspect, can you let our audience get to know you a little bit? Where you're really from, what you're focused on at this stage of life, maybe even a little bit on the personal side.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Siva Sankrithi. I am 35. I'm Seattle boy, born and raised. I live with my wife Arti and my two boys Sarang and Vivan, who are 9 and 4. And yeah, chess has been a major part of my life. And it's never been the sole focus, but always something I've enjoyed and dabbled in various ways. And as you mentioned, I retired when I was 29 to focus on homeschooling my kids, as well as running a small educational consulting nonprofit where basically I teach math and I work with kids of all ages from preschool all the way to college. And I also work with educators and schools and basically just give back and help out however I can.
That is awesome, Shiva. And, with that, let's even take that a little bit further here, because you left the educational delivery in high school in order to focus upon your boys and empowering others,
Mhm.
right, through your consultancy. Can you share a little bit about what led to your making that choice?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, I grew up in all sorts of different education models. I went to private school, I went to public school, I've dabbled in everything. And I think what I found was that, in seeing my older son developing, I found that, you know, whenever there's a discrepancy between kind of where they are intellectually and where they are emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether that's an age discrepancy or what. I
Mm-hmm.
think that definitely the system doesn't do a fantastic job catering to that. And I felt for me, as a lifelong educator, I could do much better. And I think that it was actually really interesting, Elliot. I'll tell you one quick story. We were driving on the road by our house, and the road number is 104. And I remember he must have been in his late twos or early threes, and we were driving on there, and this little kid in his booster seat or car seat at the time actually was I heard this little voice in the back, and he said, "What the podium?" And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold up, what the podium?" And then I'm like, okay, so that sounds kind of like Rutherfordium, which is a chemical element. And so then I pull out my phone, I Google it, and sure enough, that's element number 104. And I'm like, wait, hold on.
Wow.
Something's a little weird here, right? Like, wait, how did that happen? And so then I talked to Arti, and I'm like, wait, did you tell him about this? I didn't tell him about this. He's not even 3. And so then we realized that morning he was eating on, those little mats that
Mm-hmm.
that kids eat on
Yep.
with super graphics and whatnot. He was eating on one with a periodic table, and it was just there. And so I think that was the initial trigger, honestly, Elliot. And
Yep.
it was then when kind of the wheels started turning, like, okay, we need to approach this kid a little bit differently, and
Right.
offer him opportunities to really explore and learn in interesting ways. If if stuff that comes into his head is retained in that way, and those
Yep.
connections are able to be made,
Yep.
wouldn't that be cool if we could put ourselves in a position to foster and facilitate that?
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. And what I really take away from that too is the awareness that you had for how your son, even at that early age, his learning capability or how he was picking things up. And so rather than just going, okay, so I'm just going to follow the standard process, I'm going to pick up on that and leverage that, right?
Yeah.
And foster what you see as a capability, right?
Yeah.
It's similar to actually one of my sons, Caleb, when he was 2, I think it was, he said to my wife, he goes, Mom, why is circle spelled with a C instead of an S? Right. And
Right.
that curiosity went, well, I guess we might as well start.
Yeah.
And right. There's
Exactly.
no reason to say you have to wait till X time. Right. And then you obviously said, rather than me focusing my majority of my time upon my career in teaching high school math, why don't I do what I could with the opportunity you have to foster that with your kids and then have the flexibility to make even greater impact through your advisement work? So
Absolutely.
that's really cool how you jumped on that. So thanks for sharing how you started some of that transition.
Yeah.
And there's so much more we could talk there, but of course, this is the Chess for Life spotlight where
Sure.
we
Of
also
course.
talk about the
Yeah.
impact of chess as a vehicle with making a difference, right, in local and global communities. So let's talk about the chess aspect of your background with chess. And I mentioned music and others. So how early did you learn to play chess? When were you introduced to the game and what did you do with chess?
Yeah, great question. So I played kind of casually at home with my parents and my grandparents and my cousins in elementary school,
Okay.
but really I started playing chess more seriously in middle school. I think it was about 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because actually some of my classmates who were competitive chess players on the team, the team element came in.
Yep.
And so there were opportunities for team games and team awards and things like that, and they
Yep.
needed an extra player. And so I was a
Yep.
classmate with them in their more advanced math class or whatever it was, and
Mm-hmm.
they said, "Hey, do you know how to play chess? Would you be willing to come to practices every week and
Yep.
get better?" And so and I think this is kind of really what chess has brought to me in the biggest way is this feeling of community and
Mm-hmm.
camaraderie, and I would say throughout my life so many of my dear friends I met through chess, and that to me is really its power, because back then I think I had a lot of the algorithmic thinking, spatial reasoning, kind of some of those
Mm-hmm.
mental skills that chess brings
Yep.
about through other mediums. But now I could really start building those friendships and that community through chess. So that's the initializing story. And then I came back to teach at Lakeside when I
Let,
was,
let me
yeah,
interrupt there for a
yeah,
second, then we'll come right back to this
yeah,
chess at Lakeside,
sure.
because you pointed out something that I think is growing in awareness, but isn't always perceived yet by those who don't play chess.
Mhm.
Right? This view or this feeling that chess is a perhaps an introvert nerd type game. I
Mhm.
hear less and less of that, honestly, as
Yeah,
things progress. But you pointed out that what actually attracted you to the game beyond having just learned how to play it was actually the community aspect, right? The social connection,
hmm,
the friendships you can build. And I can attest to that as well, right? That was an outlet for myself. And you obviously, it's not like chess was your only thing, right? You had
right.
music, you had sport, you had all kinds of gaming, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
So,
so then, yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I mean, I played tennis and I had tennis friends. I
yep,
had music friends. I play the flute, and
yep,
but I think that's what drew me to the game. And
right.
to be honest, over time, I've probably developed more friendships through chess than anything else. I mean, it's just because it's such an amazing, welcoming community.
Yes, exactly. So back to that journey. So there you are now with Lakeside and
Yeah.
chess at Lakeside.
Yeah. So what happened was basically the former chess mentor advisor faculty sponsor, whatever you call it, he was retiring, and he knew that I enjoyed the game, that I loved it, and so he asked me, "Hey, would you be willing to take over?" And so I did, and so for 9 years, I basically led and mentored that team. I would hire master teachers to come
Yep.
in and give lessons and things like that. Our dear friend Josh Sinanen,
Yep.
who runs
Yep.
Washington Chess
Absolutely.
Federation, he was one of them, and you know that was really lovely. And basically, what happened was, we grew the program in some really cool ways, because I
Hmm.
think what happens is when an administration sees the buy-in and sees the takeaways and sees the kids learning and growing, not only in chess and accolades and all of that, but also in joy and love for the game and all these things, I think that it builds more trust in not only me but the program, and more people want to come in, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we won several state championships. We won multiple national blitz titles and bughouse titles. I think in terms of the main national event, we won some in middle school. In high school, I think we got second,
Yep.
our best year. But yeah, I mean, results aside, I think just kind of that camaraderie, that friendship, and honestly, if you think about from the school perspective, donations, like donations came in because parents wanted their kid in our
Yep.
program, because we
Yep.
had a program that was working. And so just kind of facilitating that and
Yep.
empowering that was
Yep.
was super fun, and
Yep.
really re-energized my love for chess even more.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk a moment here about the benefits of chess, right? You've alluded to some. We've talked to you about the social connection, but let's dive into what would you consider to be some of the top benefits that you would point out in terms of why chess? Why should kids play chess?
Yeah.
Beyond just a club and a connection point.
Hmm. No, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that a lot of people new to chess
Hmm.
view it as this thing only for hyper intellectuals and
Hmm.
unapproachable. And I would argue that it's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
I would say that, if anything, chess is a gateway to better STEAM learning and performance, and
Hmm.
that kind of STEAM world is where most of my work is, right?
Hmm.
And if you think about it, we've done some early childhood education chess work together, and looking at my 4-year-old, not only the letters and numbers and grid
Hmm.
sense that you can see on the chessboard, but just the ability to take turns, the ability to be patient, the ability to plan ahead. And, I'm a game theorist as well. That's kind of what I studied
Yeah.
in school, in college. And, one of the biggest things in game theory is this idea of making rational decisions under
Hmm.
uncertainty, which one could make an argument is really what life is all about, right? I mean,
Right.
like pretty
Right.
much every element of life is you're in an uncertain situation. What
Yep.
are you going to do about it? And I think chess, in a safe, fun, collaborative, and yes, competitive environment, allows that to really grow, and kids can gain that confidence, and through that, self-advocacy, spatial reasoning, algorithmic thinking, and all of these things that are so vital for success in really any other space,
Hmm.
in a
Absolutely.
fun way. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're talking about actually quite a few aspects of the game here. And a key one that stands out there is, like you're saying, this parallel towards life, right? Making decisions in a framework of uncertainty, but yet you've got guidelines that help you learn and grow, and pattern recognition in these. And just, for those listening who might be new to the game of chess and chess notation and such, you alluded to the letters and numbers. And what we mean by that is that the chessboard 8x8 has a grid, letters to name the files up and down, numbers to name the ranks side by side. And so every square has a name, like A1 is your bottom left corner, H1 is your bottom right corner. And so that's the language we're talking about when we say letters and numbers on a chessboard. And there's so many direct parallels into education that way, right? From squares and geometry and space and using the numbers, and even little things like how many squares are actually on a chessboard, right? 8 by 8. Obvious answer becomes 64, but there's actually 212, I believe, or close to that number. And if you're wondering how that's possible, look it up. So
I love that.
And that's not for you, Shiva. I know you would know that.
No, I know that.
Right?
But no, it's a great puzzle. It's a great puzzle.
Absolutely. So, there's these parallels. And on the point of making decisions in uncertainty, sometimes people think that to play chess, you got to memorize, right? You got to memorize these openings and these patterns. And I like to say then, well, not really. I don't have a memory good enough for that. Because in the first 4 moves of each side, right, the number of permutations or unique positions is upwards of 280 billion. And when a game can go 30 plus moves, it's mind-boggling. And yet, like you said, in terms of life is even more complex, right? Because in life, you don't wait for someone to move. Right. You make decisions with lots of uncertainty. But what a freeing thing that is to develop the confidence, the willingness to be comfortable making decisions with uncertainty, like you pointed out. What a huge skill that is, right?
Absolutely.
Especially in today's world. Look at the challenges we face. Look at how fast things change, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. I appreciate you pointing those out. And there's much we could say about that. So let's go a little bit further, though, into the early learning side. So you've talked about your son who's 4. We did a little bit of collaborative work, and you provided some invaluable advisory input as we worked on an early learning chess project. So let's talk for a moment. How early can you start kids in chess? And I don't mean, let's say, a prodigy here or there. I mean, in general, if you think early education, right? If you think classrooms, preschools all over, we're not talking one-off situations. Where do you think, and have you seen, and what's your input when it comes to early education chess and the benefits of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would argue that it can be started very, very young. I would say even a 2-year-old, certainly a 3-year-old could learn elements of it. And I think part of the issue is whenever you say that, it's just this misperception of, these elite GMs playing, these grandmasters playing these games where, this is not what we're talking about here. Like we're talking about learning, right? And so, I mean, just yesterday, we were at a choir rehearsal, and my 4-year-old was waiting for his brother, and he was playing with a 7-year-old and teaching him some stuff. And this little 2-year-old walks over and is like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "That's a queen. This is the, this is an amazing piece." And she's like, "Wow!" And and I think that if we pull back a little bit from the competitive side of things, the and all of that. The just learning about the pieces, learning about how they move, learning about the squares, and learning about those letters and numbers, and beginning to see patterns with fewer pieces on the board than a traditional full-on chess game. I mean, I think you can start as young as you want, and I think that the kids gravitate to that, right? I mean, I think like with your son and my son, they'll surprise you. They'll like all the time, right? I mean, and they don't have to be prodigious or anything. It's just any child. I mean, I think the beauty of early childhood is that there is this aplomb, this energy, this desire to learn that is really unparalleled. And I think that just kind of harnessing that and fostering that with chess as a lovely medium to do so is so important, and something that kind of gets lost in early ed.
Absolutely. And you made a couple of key points there that that we like to point out, which was that perception of chess being this complex game and everything else. Yes, it is a complex game at high levels. It absolutely is. But when we talk about it as a vehicle, as a tool for community positive impact, right? What an amazing educational tool it is, right? And the kids just think they're learning something cool and new. And many times they're young enough, they don't know they can't.
Yeah.
And I say that not because they can't, but because how often does society put this expectation of what you can or can't do? And when a kid doesn't have that ceiling on them, it's amazing what they can accomplish, right? We've both
Absolutely.
seen
And
that.
yeah, and I think again, like that's going back to our earlier point, like that's what drew myself and Arthi to homeschooling. I'm sure
Mhm.
it's similar for you and your family. And I think it's really just this idea that if you let the child take the lead with the right scaffolding, the
Yep.
right resources to
Yep.
kind of let their imaginations run wild
Right.
and grow and not kind of set societal or whatever expectations on them, it's
Yes.
pretty incredible what they can do and
Absolutely.
what they can learn.
And
Yeah.
and once again, for those listening who might be new to the game and going, no, I just can't fathom 3, 4 year olds, even a 2 year old getting introduced. Let me just break that down to something specific. Here's an example. The king in chess is the tallest piece, usually has a cross on top, and the king moves one square any direction. So if you're working with a 2, 3, 4 year old, learning to identify the king and set it upright inside a square is a win.
Yeah.
And then learning that it moves one square at a time, and you actually take turns and play this game of, can I move it until it reaches the edge? They've just learned the term edge and what it means. They've learned what a square is and what it means. And they've learned to take turns, right? Impulse control, working together. They're already getting positive outcomes. No, they're not checkmating anybody, and we're not trying to make them checkmate anybody, but they're using these tools from the game that slowly build. And over time, they actually do play a whole game of chess. I've seen that happen with 3 year olds and 4 year olds and many
Absolutely.
others. Now, speaking of that, chess has these certain benefits, and we know that at the higher levels, right? Higher levels of thinking and problem solving and planning and strategy, right? All these complex elements that can come together. Where do you see the benefit of chess coming in terms of a chess skill? Like, do you have to become a strong, right, master, expert, right? At what level do you see the benefits, or do you see these benefits as really independent of your chess ranking skill? Where would you see, let's say, the curve of benefit versus learning break?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely different benefits at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you've reached a higher level than I have, so you can speak to that more to some extent. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that at an early level, a lot of my students, private students in the math space and in other spaces, they played chess in kindergarten, first grade, things like that, and they're no longer playing competitively, but I think even at that level, at a very beginning level, I see their confidence in their learning
Yeah.
at a different level. I see that when they encounter a problem in the math class, in the science class, in
Yeah.
history or English, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They're not scared. They're not turned off by the problem. In fact, they view it as a fun challenge to try to surmount, try to navigate,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that is due to chess. Now, in terms of the growth, I would say that, the like once they get to about the 1,000 rated level, so
Mm-hmm.
they're playing tournaments, and beginning, I think there, the biggest thing, especially for kids, is patience. I think the patience that comes is incredible. I mean,
Yep.
I was first exposed to this when I went to a Super Nationals event
Yep.
facilitating Lakeside,
Yep.
and I just peeked into the K1 room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a bunch of 4 to 7 year olds in a room,
Yes.
like 1,000 of them, and
Yes.
you could hear a pin drop,
Right.
and
Right.
they were laser focused and
Where else in the world would you see that?
right.
Right.
It was, I
It's
mean,
hard to imagine. Right.
completely mind blowing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, it was kind of then like I didn't have kids at the time, but it was then I was like, wow, like this
Right.
is. I mean, I knew chess helped me, but wow, like this is really powerful,
Yep.
and then I think, when you get to about the like 14, 1,500 level and are
Mm-hmm.
kind of trying to transition higher into class A, expert, master, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a different kind of thing that permeates into life, which is kind of really that intense depth, right? And being able
Mm-hmm.
to study deeply, do research, and look at games and analyze positions and really deeply work on that pattern recognition for tactics
Hmm.
and even planning. I think that a lot of kids, little kids especially, I've been running a lot of these K1 events recently with my
Yep.
with my
Yep.
kid there, and they're not necessarily planning too deeply yet, but
Right.
as you get stronger, being able to plan deeply and anticipate, okay, if my opponent does this, what am I going to do? Taking it a level further,
Hmm. Right.
calculating more and more moves deep, going back to this idea of just rational decision making. I mean, that's what that is, right? Like
Correct.
those who can kind of anticipate further and not be emotionally phased by unexpected things, right? Or
Yep.
rather
Yep.
know what to expect at every level. I think that's huge in chess and in life. And so I definitely see,
Yeah.
like the 1400 plus crowd, certainly your experts and masters, having that very deeply woven within the fabric of their minds, and helps them tremendously in all aspects.
Absolutely. And I would totally agree with that. And I appreciate how you phrase that too, that at different levels of chess, you have different potential benefits, right? Early on, you have these certain benefits that are the pattern recognition and the simple problem solving. And at early ages, especially like you mentioned, the patience, the focus, these kind of things. And then as you go up, right, there's additional ones. For example, at Chess4Life, we talk about our 10 life skills that we teach through the game, that we inculcate in youth, and they don't realize they're necessarily learning them. It's just happening through the training and the mindsets that we strive to achieve, right? Just like that one about you can win, you can draw, or what else can happen? You can learn,
Sure.
right? Fail is first attempt in learning, right? Acronym for it. And it's
Yep.
this growth mindset. It's developing grit, and you're just doing it through this fun game. And that carries over into like the can do attitude. If you think you can, you probably can. If you think you can't, you definitely can't. Right, because you're not going to
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
You just won't do it, right? So it's this mindset, resiliency, and grit and growth. And then as you get to those upper levels of chess, shall we say, you get this deeper element. And one thing you pointed out is, yes, I'm a national master, right? Earned that in my
Mhm.
high school years. And one of the things I like to say about the difference of thinking that I believe I do as a national master, and I'm not saying it's true for every master on how you think, but the way I see myself thinking is I'm always thinking just backwards, right? I'm always thinking, take the resources in front of me on the chessboard. What are my strengths and weaknesses? Determining an objective and a goal, and then saying what's the most efficient path forward to move me towards that goal, knowing that there's going to be new information coming every turn,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then so you mirror this ability to focus and calculate and think ahead and visualize with this backwards thinking of goal setting and planning. And just step back from that a sec. Imagine if youth in our country and the world thought that way in terms of their choice of college,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of where their unique skill sets and energizing activities are and where they're going to be, right? Would we have the college debt problems we have today if the majority were thinking that way so long ago, right? Because do we think far enough ahead and then make the moves towards it and then reevaluate? Just because you made a choice today, new information may say, I need to leave that. But how many people are stuck with sunk cost bias,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh,
Because I
absolutely.
started this way, I better keep going there. Otherwise, I made a mistake. Well, maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe you just learned what you need for the next next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of went off on that tangent here because you're speaking so true to it and you're living that, right? You went
Absolutely.
10 years at Lakeside School and you didn't go because I've done 10 years, therefore I need to finish a career here. You
Right.
went, I've learned tremendous stuff here. Now what's the next step towards the goals, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
So it's
And I
it's a
think, as
joy,
as you say, that iteration, that constant desire to improve and get better and
right?
take your talents to the next level is, again, it's embedded within chess and in life.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned ahead of our talk here that sportsmanship was one thing that really stood out to you as a
Yeah.
key life lesson,
Yeah.
right, through the game. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that sportsmanship and on a more broad level, kind of affability, camaraderie, community. I mean, in many ways, that's kind of what carries us forward and brings us joy in a lot of ways as humans. And I think that one of the reasons I was drawn to chess in middle school when those friends approached me was because I could see that while it is competitive, while there is that, there is that fire to grow and improve, it's also really collaborative and beautiful. And it's in many ways, it's kind of like a learning hive mind, to use an
Mhm.
education term, in the sense that, you're constantly bouncing ideas of each other. Like I'll lose a game to a stronger player, but they'll offer to go over the game with me afterward.
Right.
That's incredible.
Right.
That doesn't happen in football or basketball or tennis. Like nobody's like, oh yeah, and in this moment, I thought maybe if you hit that shot over here. No, none of that. Like,
Right.
but in chess, it's amazing, right? Like when you play a friend, someone in a tournament, you make a friend. You have a new study buddy. You can analyze things with them. You can get better, and I think just this, there's some exceptions, like with any game, but I find that in general, having run so many tournaments and organized so many tournaments and played myself, just in general, people are so sweet, so thoughtful. They may be a little disappointed when things don't go their way, but at the end of the day, that growth mindset, right? They're
Yep.
constantly seeking to figure
Yep.
out, oh, what could I have done better, right? And
Right.
and they'll compliment their opponent, like, great job on that move, like, and that's
Yep.
that's so cool, right? But
Exactly.
you don't really see that in other, like, sports certainly teach you sportsmanship, there's no doubt, but I think it's a unique environment in that it's simultaneously competitive and super collaborative with this desire for the kind of collective growth, which I
Right.
think
As a
really.
whole, agreed. And I'm glad you brought that out there, because you think about it, right? A sports team, they compete. And of course, there's sportsmanship, let's say soccer or European football
Yeah,
and these things
yeah,
where there's the traditional sportsmanship aspects of shaking hands and these kind of things, right? And as a team, you're always improving and striving to do this. But there's not that same piece where in a chess match, it's very common in big events for them to play each other, even strangers, and after the game, sit down together and review the moves played and go, what could we have done to improve? And we help each other. So that collaboration, I'm so glad you brought that out under the sportsmanship piece here. That is huge, right?
yeah, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
And the doors it opens,
Yes.
because you mentioned a couple of things like this, uh, connections that are built, the collaborative ease. I'm just going to put a plug in right now. There's a mutual connection of ours, Florian Health,
Mhm.
right? From Amazon, Twitch, and been leading the Amazon Global Chess Club. He's doing amazing things, a huge advocate for collegiate chess into career. And we've done some work together. If you're listening to this, you can always listen to our interview with Florian also on the Spotlight, and what he's doing to bring the Pan Am Collegiate Championships hosted at Amazon this next January. And in there is an incredible opportunity where participants in there get an opportunity to meet people and potentially acquire mentors in these companies when
Mhm.
they have fields of interest where STEM and chess is so connected, or STEAM and chess, right?
Yep.
And where does that happen? Where could you be a college student and potentially have a high level
Yeah.
engineer at one of these tech companies willing to mentor you because of the connections that occurred through chess, right? The connection. And so that's just another aspect. There is so much here. Time is short. We could talk a
Yeah.
long
Oh, for
time on these
sure.
pieces, but you've done a tremendous amount, right, with using chess and music and many other spheres
Yeah.
to positively impact youth, right, to build up the future. And that's so amazing. And I appreciate that, Shiva. Before we wrap up here, just really quick, you up for a quick chess challenge?
Sure. Let's do it.
Sure.
Let's
Why
do it.
not? Right? This win, draw, learn.
Yeah.
And as we go into that game, I also do want to ask you, though, what would be a final question here before we go to our game, and then we'll wrap up. If you were thinking about what you've done and accomplished so far in life, what kind of advice would you give to your younger self? Because I'm certain that you had mentors through your life, just as I have had, right, to learn from. What kind of advice would you now give to your younger self if you were to look back, to whatever period you like, 10 years, 5 years, elementary, you pick.
Yeah, what a great question. So I think the best advice I could give to my younger self is be you and trust the process. And I think what I mean by that is, you're constantly inundated with advice when you're
Yeah.
growing up, whether it's solicited or unsolicited.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you are your own person, you have your own journey, you have your
Right.
own path. And, I think if anything, I've found in my life, especially as an adult, to be able to welcome any and all advice, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, have a very authentic sense of who I am
Yeah.
and filter that as necessary, right? And it's just like the win draw learn mindset, right?
Yes.
Like there are certainly elements from that that I will take and learn from,
Yeah.
and there are certain elements that may not apply to me
Right.
and may not be best for me, and to be ready to say, okay, that's not for me. This is. Let's give it a
Yeah.
shot. And I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
and I think that you know, I'm very fortunate in that I did learn that quite young, but at the same time, I think that's still probably the best advice I could give my younger self.
So be you.
Yes.
I get that part. That's amazing. Trust the process. Can you expand on that slightly? Or is that just
Yeah.
part of being you, the process of
Well,
being you?
yeah. No, that's a fair point. So I think in terms of trusting the process is, just kind of, I'm talking more on an individual level,
Mm.
right? Not necessarily the systemic process or anything like that.
Right. That's why I was clarifying,
Yeah,
right?
no, no,
Because
no,
I'm thinking the
absolutely, absolutely. No,
process.
that's
What do
good,
you
good.
mean? The
Yeah,
the
yeah.
educational process,
No,
right?
no, no,
No,
not not
no.
not that necessarily.
Yeah.
But no, what I mean is really like as you grow, there
Yes.
will be several roadblocks. There will
Right.
be several challenges that you have to navigate,
Yeah.
and just kind of trust in your learning, trust in what you've learned thus far, that
Yeah.
you have those strengths to overcome those challenges and
Got it.
and
Yep.
utilize those to keep going. That's
Again,
really
that growth mindset is what I'm hearing come through that,
yeah.
right?
Yes,
In other
absolutely.
words, just because there may be an outcome that I don't like now, that doesn't mean it was a blunder. It means I learned.
Yes,
I got
absolutely.
better. So
Yep.
trusting that progress. Awesome. I appreciate that clarification. That's cool. So love to challenge you a quick game here, like we do on the show.
Sure.
If someone's up for it, and it's always a win, draw, learn. It's fun. That's how we learn. We're
Absolutely.
always embrace
Yeah.
it, right? If I can talk through the game a little bit while we're doing it, maybe.
Sounds
Sometimes
great.
I do,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't. I'll send
Absolutely.
you a challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm on the platform. I will share our screen,
Sounds
and
good.
then so I'll send you the challenge right after I hit, and I'll send you it right now. Let's see if that goes.
Yep. Okay.
Let's, there we are. We're in a
All
game
right.
here.
Good luck, my friend.
Yeah, same to you, and good thinking.
Thank
And
you.
what's fascinating is we can play thousands of games, and yet every game, in most cases, right, 99% becomes a unique game that hasn't been played. It's just
Absolutely.
incredible, the uniqueness of the game that way. And so here we are. And if you're new to chess watching this game, right, what I'm doing is I'm bringing our pieces and we're battling for this center, these center four squares. And why? That's a key strategic concept in chess, where if your pieces are in the middle, they generally have more space, more opportunity from which to go to either side of the board. And here, another key principle we're trying to follow is bring out these pieces from the back row, move them forward, move them into position where they can be utilized in attacking. So we have a battle going on. We're each trying to, it's called develop our pieces, get them out. Critical to do that as early as possible, because if you attack with one or two, are you going to overcome a team of 8? Not likely. So offering some more trades, I see.
Yeah.
I guess I'll take you up on that.
Sweet.
So we got most of our pieces out here. I've still got this bishop and this rook that haven't moved. Siva has those two that haven't moved on the back row. And that's one of the strategies, if you're watching this, of, hey, mobilize those pieces, advance them, right? Find more powerful squares for them. Like you can see my rook here in the corner has only 1, 2, 3 choices right now because it's blocked by my other pieces, whereas this rook in the middle has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even protects this one. So you can see pieces with more space tend to have more advantage. So this trade has given me 1 extra pawn, which is 1 point. It's a little bit. It can be a game winner, but it just means I have the advantage at the moment. And then you have to consider, how do you leverage those resources in a way to convert little advantages into bigger advantages if possible. So you see how these moves have brought this both of our rooks out of the corners towards the middle. And now here we are in really what's kind of like an endgame. We've got what's called minor pieces, a bishop and knight each. And the king becomes quite a powerful piece in the endgame. So again, strategy. Once those major pieces, queens and rooks, are off the board, it's a key strategy to mobilize the rest of your forces in a way to advance, control more squares, gain more space. And the king is a powerful attacking piece. And in fact, it's considered a little bit more valuable than either the knight or the bishop.
And to our point about getting better at different levels and all that, I think the end game is such an interesting time in the game where you know the more experienced players have a huge advantage, because even though there's fewer pieces on the board, the depth of calculation is just so great. It's amazing.
Yeah, depth of calculation, and then also the principles in the position, right?
Absolutely.
It's like which ones could be a win, which ones could not, because there's some nuances. And so I find that in studying the game of chess, that studying the end game pays pretty large dividends because it's so powerful, right? One misstep in the end game can be a turning of the game into a different result, or even saving a game.
Absolutely.
So another principle in the game is simply the principle of advancing. And that is the idea that you want to move forward to gain more space. And with pawns, getting them closer to the other side increases their potential value. Meaning, hey, if they reach the other side of the board, they turn into another piece, right? So for those watching, that would be a key strategy, is like, can I keep advancing further and further up that board?
Ah, my time noise has come.
Yep. That too, the pressure of time.
It's really hard, yeah.
It is when there's time pressure, right? Having to make decisions under a limited resource.
You can checkmate me. Why not? We can let people see what that looks like.
Absolutely. Sure. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's go here. And we
All
have
right.
it. And
Good
thanks
game,
for
sir. Virtual
thanks
handshake.
for playing. Virtual handshake indeed. And like we talked about, we can learn from each other, right?
Definitely.
So if I were to go back in this game just a little ways, without using a computer analysis, we could say that perhaps a turning point was when I gained that extra pawn.
That e-pawn.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so it's like, okay, so what led to that? And I think that was this critical moment. The choice of moving here, you see, you're trying to trade pieces, which is a good strategy because I have more space, right? So eliminating some pieces frees your position. The trouble is, and here's where that calculation comes in, right? The trade here allows this pawn to become weak. You see how nothing's defending it?
Yeah.
And so I can take advantage of that with the rook by eliminating my pawn in between.
Yep.
You see? So then the push creates the threat. And the trouble is, if you don't take me, and let's say you moved somewhere else, like over here, then when I trade, I uncover a threat anyway.
Yeah, so I figured you would get that anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would say the one suggestion I would give right here would be, okay, you do want to eliminate those pieces, and that's a good strategy. A secondary strategy would be to say, and what is a target I could attack? And so I would suggest a move like simply considering rook over.
Okay.
To line up with this pawn, possibly sense. Followed with bishop here to target the pawn again. And you're a little cramped, right?
Yeah.
But if you do that, you may even choose to reroute your knight.
Oh, I see.
So that this bishop can be freed up and eliminate one of my defenders.
Got it.
So that was just where my head was going when I was briefly looking at it.
That makes total sense. I appreciate that.
Was like, hey, maybe find a target on my side you can go after, because it's a choice, right? It's either find a target and attack it, or go, what do I need to do to just improve here? And you chose the what do I do to improve, which was let's trade some pieces to free my position. But there was, again, a tactical thing. So thanks for taking the time on that one. I'll stop the share a sec. Absolutely. So we can go back to chatting here. You know, it's been a joy having you come on again, Shiva, really. I've admired the work you've been doing, and there's so much more. We've barely touched the surface, and you have not said a percentage of the impact that you've had. And I want to thank you for that, because you really, in your advisory work towards early learning chess and early education, high school education, you were a significant piece of the math development, even at Lakeside School, right? There's so many aspects that you have done. And I applaud that work with your overarching mindset of seeking to provide value and growth and such. So any last thing you would like to add before we sign off as we move forward?
Well, I want to say thank you too. It's really lovely to connect and chat with an old friend, a chess dad, homeschool, all of these things. And I would just add, for all those viewers out there who are, just thinking about chess and a little unsure if chess is for you, give it a try. It's what do you have to lose? It's a game. and it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. And I think that there's a lot you can gain from chess outside from just the game itself. I think the biggest thing for me is, the community, the sportsmanship, the friendship, and that decision making under uncertainty. It's made a world of difference in my life, and even if you're just playing for a little while, I think it can make a pretty big difference in yours too.
That is awesome, Shiva. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And once again, everyone listening, be sure to like and subscribe in order to not miss out new episodes that come out regularly here. Thanks again. Pleasure having you. Best wishes in your ongoing work. Look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks.